Hey, it's Adam Kolozetti, and this is the Culture Hack. Today we have on Blaine McGillivray. He is the president of WellnFlex. He's going to talk to us about all things benefits, specifically where to start and where to go with wellness and flexibility. So check it out. Hello and welcome to the Culture Hack. Today we are in studio, which is pretty fantastic, seeing as we are usually virtual. And in studio with me today, I'm super excited because I have Blaine McGillivray with me. He is the president of WellnFlex, and he's been in the benefits industry for over 20 years. He knows all things benefits. Thank you, Blaine, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited, and we were talking before how you got into all this. So,
Sure.
But before we get into that, though, tell us a little bit about WellnFlex.
Sure. So WellnFlex, it's a brand new company. I just launched it, technically a couple months ago, but it's like a baby. It's starting to walk right now. But yeah, the journey of sort of how I got there is a bit of a long story. If you want me to get into that, it's but yeah, as a startup company, it's an entrepreneurial journey that I haven't done in over 20 years. I started a company a long time ago, and yeah, so it's been a great time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were telling me your grandfather even was in the benefits world. Like, this is not a new...
Yeah, you bet. So actually, both of my grandparents were in the insurance industry, and both of them were in benefits. My one grandfather started Mercer's for Western Canada, which is one of the largest sort of consulting shops for employee benefits in Canada.
Yeah.
They're like a national, international consultant, pretty large. And then the other, on my mother's side, he worked for London Life and sold, life insurance, but also got into a little bit of employee benefits as well. And yeah, I figured it would be a good career. And it turned out I was right. I'm able to deal with lots of interesting folks and do stuff like this, and yeah, I love it.
Okay, fantastic. But it wasn't a straight journey. Like, you told me at one point you were actually thinking of going to law school instead. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think if, we go sort of way back and back to 25 years ago, my father and my family actually really sort of positioned, if you gotta own your own business kind of a thing.
Right.
And he poked me in the chest a little bit. And so it was drilled into me. My father actually owned a company called Olympia Paint and Tile, which you guys are probably too young to know what that is, but it was a paint store. Mm-hmm. We had 5 retail stores here in Calgary. And yeah, I kind of grew up, when I started university taking business school, I figured I'll just work at the shop, right? Like, take over. I worked there when I was little. I collected cash. I did little things worked in the warehouse, drove a forklift, and made a hell of a mess, and spilled some paint, had some fun, but learned how to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this idea of entrepreneurism has kind of stayed with you as you've got into the benefits world, because you actually get to talk with a lot of entrepreneurs. You're talking with CEOs, CFOs, all those types of people.
Yeah, so I think that, if we could rewind a little bit, the idea of being an entrepreneur to me was sort of born and bred. But during that journey of sort of thinking, all right, my dad sold the business right at the end of my degree, or actually a little before then, and I had to sort of reinvent myself. The idea was, like every other sort of business student or poli-sci major, it's sort of, well, why don't I be a lawyer,
Right, okay. Yeah.
And so here I was, thinking about that, but I also remember that my grandfather on my father's side, and also on my mother's side, they had really sort of reasonable lifestyles. Like, I was joking with you, he always drove a nice Chrysler kind of a thing, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
My dad he had his education paid for, and they had a nice home in a nice neighborhood, and I thought, why not? While I was doing university, I was in the co-op program and actually volunteered while part of the co-op program was working with a law firm at the time. And I felt like junior lawyers were pretty miserable. They weren't quite as happy as they could be. They weren't living their best life, we'll say. And so I knew that probably wasn't for me. And then, writing my LSATs and getting into some schools that were sort of second tier just sort of put the nail in the coffin for me.
Gotcha.
And at the time, my brother-in-law was getting into the business as well. His dad was in the business in the benefits world, was one of the directors for Manulife Group Benefits as well. And so we had a little conversation on the beach one day, and he was going to fire up his own business. I said, all right, well, if I could be a partner, I'll get some training with the underwriters, and we'll see you in a year or two. And that's what led us to
Okay.
become partners, business partners down the road.
I love that. How fantastic that another family connection
Lots of family.
led to this journey.
Yep, for sure.
And do you guys still work together?
No, so recently we brought our company to a certain point over a 20-year period again. I became an owner maybe 12 years ago. I had to buy the dad out. That's another long story of how that all came about. But the idea was that I'd always be a partner, but by the time I got there, they had grown the business. I had to buy into it. So it's a costly little endeavor.
Yeah.
And we decided to partner with a national firm, being sort of a local Western Canada shop focused in Calgary. You know, we were competing with like the Mercers, and that's sort of what we wanted to model ourselves after, was just a dial of the needle before the Mercers shops and the Aons of the world. And we got there, and then we felt like, you know, if we partnered with a national company and had a bigger footprint and could specialize in some other areas that we didn't quite specialize in before, it can't be, you know, you wear a little bit too many hats. Why not just focus and then bring in some expert help on things like pension, for example? And so we did that, and that sort of ran its course, and now we're both sort of restarting in different directions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. How cool that you're able to start something in this niche and then engage a national partner to bring in, like you said, other expertise, and now this thing you've created can serve even more people.
Yeah,
Right?
well now the new thing for me, I mean, with WellnFlex specifically, with a startup, you know, I almost had one of those Jerry Maguire moments, and I forgot to mention that to you in the initial meeting. It's sort of like, I did have the Jerry Maguire moment, and you know, it came down to, you know, when I left, I left without the goldfish and no Renee Zellweger either, so it was just me sort of out the door. But it had to be done. You know, it was one of those things. It was the right thing to do for my family, and the right thing to do for me, and I think also the right thing for the business. You know, I think the business was getting a little bit commoditized with these national sort of consolidators. In the end, it sort of turned out to be that way, where it was sort of profit driven. But I think, yeah, I made the right choice.
Okay. Well, I like, you know, as I'm thinking about your story and listening, how you've kind of followed your intuition, right? You were down this path to law school, and you're like, no, maybe not. Maybe we could go over here. And then, of course, when the company expanded nationally, and you're kind of thinking that you could maybe serve people better now with WellnFlex.
Yeah, right? For sure. You know, and actually, again, back to the Jerry Maguire thing, it was pretty funny. You know, when he gets fired, he's having the lunch with his buddy there, and he said, "You said it yourself. You know, less people, less profits, less."
Yeah.
And it's sort of, that's honestly the thing. I mean, being with a national firm, it really became a profit-driven organization, and it affected our team's culture. So we had our own kind of bubble that we worked in for the first little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, in the end, you know, culture was our secret sauce, and it got a little bit damaged. And you know, when we spoke of engagement a little bit before, employees become disengaged, and so do the business owners. I mean, it was tough for me to watch what was happening, not just to the business as an insurance, you know, industry, but also what was happening to clients and staff and all of that stuff. And I think we, if I could tell a better story to get closer to the clients, again, the Jerry Maguire, like have those relationships tighter,
right?
Have more meaning in what you do. You know, write the manifesto and see where it takes you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So okay, well that's fascinating. I love the story, and I'm really looking forward to chatting about WellnFlex and kind of what your vision for that is. Do you want to give us a bit of a teaser about WellnFlex and kind of the culture you've created there?
Yeah, so I think, you know, the idea of WellnFlex was more trying to give people what they wanted. And I think, you know, if you really look at the business and business in general, there's two things, and there's two types of people. You have your employees that are your teammates and, you know, hopefully your partners in crime and trying to do the right thing for the client. But you also have the clients. And I think that, you know, if you divide those two things, when you talk about engagement or satisfaction of a product or anything like that, I think those two things are really actually married. If you have the same sort of mission and vision and culture, then I think you can make it work. So for me, it was getting back to the drawing board and saying, all right, having that more connected, meaningful relationship with maybe a fewer clients, but also staff, you know, actually partner with your clients, but also staff. And so how do you do that? give the people what they want. We used to do thousands of employee benefit surveys. We get results, and inevitably, employees were asking for the same thing. They wanted more flexibility. If I talk to the HR leaders, which we'd engage them with the survey, and then we'd talk to the HR leaders about what it meant and how we could solve for whatever issue, if there was one, or the ask from the employees. They wanted, the staff employees wanted flexibility, but the HR folks have always, and for 10 years, said, we want mental wellness. We want to walk the talk of mental health. And so I thought, wellness and flexibility, thus
see it now.
WellnFlex. And I think it's on both sides of the fence, offer that. So I'm trying to partner with PPN, so preferred provider networks, that offer mental health tools free to all of my clients, but also partner with the Flex account partner that can run that really well for all of my clients again.
Right.
And offer some bolt-ons to my clients and staff, and again, they're gonna get the same thing on either side, that has flexibility and wellness built in for mental health. The other thing is, preferred provider networks, and I talked about how to do that and sort of really deeply engage with your customers, but also your staff. I think it's important for the staff, do you do a employee share ownership program, or do you do an employee ownership trust? Or do you just have a contract that's airtight that you're sharing in some of these, whether it's successes or failures? So for me, partnerships, preferred provider networks, wellness and flexibility, and that's sort of what I'm trying to do.
I love that. That is fantastic.
Thanks.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, Blaine, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, I've, doing things like this is trying to get me out there. I would say I've got a LinkedIn profile that I've been working pretty hard at, and doing a podcast. Hopefully some snippets of this end up on LinkedIn so that you know that I care about relationships and people and have that deeper connection. So LinkedIn is one spot, Google my name, pretty difficult to spell, but WellnFlex is the page, so WELLN as in Nancy and Flex, all one word, and then you can engage with the company LinkedIn page. Of course, wellnflex.com is the website, and you can find everything you need there. It's a beginner website, but this is the beginning of something good, and thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
And definitely check out next episode. We're going to get into some of the details of what you need to think about when you're thinking about benefits and all that kind of stuff, and get some great advice from Blaine. So check out next time.